And when you found a comfortable position lying on your back, just take a moment to notice how you feel here, noticing all of the parts of the back of your body that are in contact with the ground. And just taking a moment to allow the weight of your body to be supported by the ground. Maybe inviting in a little bit more of a sense of heaviness. And now take some time to check in with yourself. Just bring your attention inwards. Notice how you feel. And now direct your attention to your breath and simply observe your breath for a few moments. Just tune into the rhythm of in breath and out breath. And now, if you wish, you can bring your hands to rest on your chest. And for the next few breaths, just notice if you can sense any movement at your chest as you breathe. You might sense that gentle expansion with your inhales and settling back with your exhales. And now bring your hands down to your belly. And we'll do the same thing here. Breathe easy and just notice what you notice. Do you sense any movement at your belly as you breathe? And then let your hands come back to rest. And just for another breath or two, just notice how your breath feels. Maybe it feels a little different, maybe not. Just notice what you notice. And we'll start with a little bit of arm movement. So just bring your arms out into a T position out by your sides. Turn your palms to face up if that's comfortable. And let's do a few snow angel arms. Just tracing your hands first along the ground, then let them float up away from the ground as you bring your hands up overhead. And then arc them all the way back down. And try this a couple of times. And the next time you bring them down by your sides, let them rest. And then reach your hands up towards the ceiling. Just give your arms a little bit of a shake out. And then bring them back to stillness, but keep them up. Let your shoulder blades settle down towards the ground. And we'll just lift and lower our arms a few times here. So, first, just bring them up overhead, lowering them closer to the ground. And then bring them back up to the starting place, fingertips pointing towards the ceiling. And keep going a few times. Just nice, gentle movement. And let's let this one go. Just bring your arms down to rest wherever they're most comfortable. And then bring one leg up towards the ceiling and just shake it out a bit. Bring it back to stillness. Keep it up. And just keep a bit of softness in your knee and in the sole of your foot. And here we're just going to lower and lift this leg a few times, lowering it down towards the ground just a bit. Come on back up. See if you can keep a little bit of a bend in your knee, a little bit of softness in the bottom of your foot. And just a few more nice, easeful, arcing movements. Notice if you're gripping in your foot or holding your knee really straight. Can you soften a bit? All right, let's let this one go and switch sides. Start with a bit of a shake on the other leg. Come on back to stillness, but keep that sense of softness and lower and lift a couple times. Nice and easy. You don't have to bring your legs super far down towards the ground, just whatever feels more easeful for you. All right, let that go. Bring your foot back down. Bring both knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a little hug. You can have a bit of a rocking movement from side to side if you'd like. And come back to center, but keep your knees in. Bring your hands onto your knees. Bring your big toes to touch. And let's do some hip circles here. Move your knees out to the sides away from each other. And then circle them away from your chest and back together and back in towards your chest. And keep going with those nice big circles. See if you can keep your big toes in contact the whole way through. And maybe do those circles the other way a few times. Awesome. Let's let this one go as well. Bring your feet back down. Bring your arms to rest. Take a breath here and take just a quick moment to tune in again. Notice how the back of your body feels on the ground. Notice how your breath feels. All right, let's pick up that first leg again. Bring your knee in towards your chest and then just hold on to the back of your thigh. Hold on with your hands, or if that feels like a big reach, you can grab that strap and wrap that around the back of your thigh so you can hold on like this. Nice. All right. So we're going to straighten our leg a little bit here and do a bit of ankle movement. So first, flex your foot, try to pull your toes down towards your nose, and then point your foot, pointing your toes up towards the ceiling. And just go back and forth a few times. And you can see your ankle here. If there's a bit of a circly quality to that movement, can you picture your ankle like a hinge joint that's just going back and forth, nice and straight? Okay, let this one go. Now let's do our circles. Just circling a couple times one way, a couple times the other way. Okay, let that go as well. And maybe straighten your leg a little bit more if you can. And we're going to do some rotations here in this leg. So think about rotating from the upper leg bone so that the whole leg can rotate in and out a few times. And as you go, if you like, you can rest your hands on your hip bones so that you can notice if your hips want to shift a little bit side to side or back and forth as you do this. And if you find that, then try to slow down your rotation so you can isolate this to just a movement of your leg. Okay, let that go. Hug this knee in towards your chest. And when you hold your knee, notice if your shoulders lift off the ground or if they can rest on the ground. And if they're lifting off the ground, then grab that strap, wrap it around your shin so that you can hold that knee with shoulders comfortably on the ground. And then stretch the other leg straight on the ground. Let's go into a twist here. So hold that knee with just the opposite hand. So if you've got the right knee in, hold with the left hand onto your shin or onto the strap. And then bring your knee over in the opposite direction to find your twist. Try and keep your shoulders both on the ground as best as you can. If you find one is lifting up, then back out of the twist a little bit. And take a few breaths here. All right, come on back to center. Bring both legs back down. Just let them rest on the ground for a breath or so. All right, let's do that all on the other leg. So bring the other knee in, holding onto the back of your thigh with your hands or strap and hands. Bring your foot up a little bit so you can see your ankle. And let's do those ankle movements. Just point and flex to start with. And then circling. Awesome. Let the ankle movement go. Straighten your leg a little bit more, whatever's comfortable. And we'll do our rotations here. So, nice simple rotation, but try to picture it coming from that upper leg bone rotating in your hip socket. So your foot's not leading the way, your knee's not leading the way. You're thinking about this movement happening at your hip. All right, let that one go as well. Bring your knee in towards your chest. You're going to keep this knee in, holding onto your shin with your hands or hands and strap. Stretch the other leg long along the ground. Switch your grip to hold on to that knee with just the opposite hand. And then draw your knee over into the twist. See how much of a twist you can find without your shoulders wanting to lift off the ground. And hang out here for a few breaths. All right, come on back to center. Take a moment to just move or stretch any way you'd like. And let's meet back in our little hug here, knees pulled in towards your chest, holding on with your hands, having a bit of a rock side to side. And then come back to laying on in the same position as you were in at the very beginning of class. And again, really quick little check in, just notice how everything feels. All right. Now let's slowly start to make our way up. So you can bring your knees in towards your chest again and just roll gently over to your side. And then slowly, slowly come up to a seat. And we're going to stay in a seated position for just a couple of minutes. So if you're comfortable on the ground, you can stay here. If you'd like to come up to a chair, please feel free to do that. If you're on the ground, it's always helpful to sit up onto something. So if you've got a block or a pillow or Couple of blankets you can fold up. You can use anything you've got just so that you can sit a little bit more comfortably on the ground. If you're in your chair, make sure you're sitting with your feet flat on the ground so that you're nice and steady. And once you're here, just take a breath. Let everything kind of settle in this position and tune into the rhythm of your breath again. Let's start to move a little bit here. As you inhale, float your arms up, draw your palms together. And as you exhale, trace your hands down the center line. Nice. Let's do that a few times. Inhaling to lift. With your exhales, trace down the center line of your body. Keep going a couple more times. And as you exhale, we'll let this one go. Bring your arms all the way down, shake them out a little bit, bring them back to rest. Let's do a few rounds of cat and cow here in a seated position. So as you inhale this time, arch your back. Look up. Maybe roll your shoulders back a touch. And then with your next exhale, round through your spine, draw your chin to your chest. Maybe your shoulders can curl forward. And just go back and forth a few times. Just encouraging a little bit of movement through your spine. And make your way back to a more neutral spine. Nice. Soften your shoulders, rest your hands, breathe easy. Okay. If you've got a block free, you can grab that. If you don't have a block, you can do this without props, but you can also have a strap nearby instead of the block. Whatever you've got. And we're going to do a little bit of a side bend. So just see if you're sitting on the ground, if you can easily touch the ground with one hand. If you can't, you can use that block or anything you've got for a little bit of support. So just have it handy if you'd like. But start with your hands resting on your legs. Tune into your breath once again. As you inhale, bring both arms up. And then just exhale the right hand down, touching the ground, or if you're seated in a chair, just hold the side of your chair. Nice. Using that prop if you need to, so you can have a connection to the ground. Lengthen through your spine here. Feel as if you could get just a little bit taller. And then as you exhale, let's go into our side bend. Stay in a position where it feels like both sit bones are on the ground. And breathe. And as you inhale, come all the way back up. Bring the other arm up. And let's switch. Bring the other hand down. Use whatever you need to feel connected to the ground. As you inhale next, lengthen through your spine. And then with your exhale, side bend the other way. Again, keep both sides of your seat connected to the ground or your chair. And come on back up. Nice. Release your arms, shake them out. Bring your hands back to rest, and let's just do a few easy shoulder rolls. Circling them up and back, circling them forward and down, and letting that go. Okay, now let's grab our block or strap, whatever you got. And of course, if you don't have anything, that is fine too. I'm just going to do our side bend, this time with both arms up. So if you've got the block, you can just hold on to it like this. If you've got the strap, you can hold on to it so that you've got your hands just a little distance apart, just kind of to give you a little bit of stability. Just make sure the buckle of your strap isn't going to smack you when we do this. And if you've got Nothing at all. It's fine. Just keep your arms up and keep that sense of pulling your arms towards each other. So, with whatever you've got, bring your arms up overhead. Nice. A little gentle squeeze into the block if you've got it, or pulling apart with a strap if you're using that. And keep that action as you lengthen through your spine. And with your next exhale, side bend over to the right. Keep both sit bones on the ground or your chair. Come on back up. Exhale to go the other way. Nice. Probably a little bit less of a side bend here. That's okay. Follow your inhale up to center. Let's go side to side a couple of times. You can follow your breath or you can take your own pace, whatever works for you. One more time. Maybe just notice what muscles are working in your trunk to help stabilize you here. Next time you come to center, let's go. Bring your arms down. Give everything a nice shake. Maybe you want a few more circles. Okay, rest your hands, soften your shoulders, breathe easy. And just notice, how does everything feel now? Okay, now we're just going to come up to our feet. So make your way up to standing. Okay, so if you're using your chair, have your chair nearby. A chair is really nice for balance, but you want it to be all the way on your mat so that it's not going to slide anywhere if you're looking to that for some balance. And if you don't have a chair, but you want a little bit of balance support just in case, just come to standing close to a wall so you can have fingertips near the wall. And we might use a block. So if you want to have a block, you can have one ready at the center of your mat, right in front of you. Okay. So we're going to do some standing poses, and rather than coming into the pose and just holding it, we're going to do a bit of movement once we get into the pose. So we're going to do a little bit of warriors. We're going to do a little bit of a tree pose. And for the tree pose, we're going to do our dancing tree pose where we do a little bit of movement between the different versions or the different times of tree pose. So let's try those foot movements to start with. So start with your feet about hip width distance apart. Nice. Okay. And first, cross the left foot in front of the right and place it back down. Find a place where both feet can actually be on the ground. Nice. Come on back to the starting place. And then step that left foot out to the side. A little bit of a wider stance, but again, both feet on the ground. Nice. Come back to center. This time, step that foot forward. Same thing. How can you step forward so that both feet can be on the ground? Even your back heel. Come on back to the starting place and then step this foot back. Same thing. Both feet on the ground. Nice. Come on back to the starting place. Give everything a little wiggle. Let's do that again. Other side this time. Step the right foot in front of the left. Find your footing here. And come back to center. And then go wide. Come on back. Step that foot forward. And come back. And step that foot back. Nice. Come on back. Awesome. Give it a little wiggle. Okay, let's come to a bit of a wider stance. Doesn't have to be super wide. If it feels more comfortable to be here, if it feels more steady, then stay here. You don't want to go nice and wide, you can. See what works for you. Awesome. Bring your hands to your hips. And we're just going to do a little bit of side to side. So bend one knee, shift your hips over. Do the other way. Just a little bit of back and forth. And come on back to center. Nice. Let's get those feet back to where we started. Awesome. Okay. And we're going to do just a brief time of standing on one leg. So if you want a bit of balance support, come close to that. And just shift your weight into your right foot so the left foot is a little bit lifted off the ground, and we'll do our rotations here. So with at least one hand on your hip, start your rotations just like we did when we were laying on our back. Try to picture your upper leg bone rotating in and out. And your hand on your hips can notice if your hips are rocking along with the movement. And if that's the case, make your rotation smaller. How much rotation do you have when it's just leg bone moving in your hip socket? It is fine if it's not much. Okay, let's switch sides. Might be more rotation in one leg than the other. Your leg might like to rotate more in one direction than the other. Doesn't really matter, just kind of get familiar with it. Nice. Come on back to standing. Have a little wiggle. Come on back to stillness. Rest your arms, soften your shoulders, just breathe. Okay. Now let's try a simple tree pose. So come to standing with your feet about hip width distance apart. Have some balance support nearby if you'd like, whether it's a chair or the wall. The other thing is if you're standing on a really squishy mat, then you might want to come onto the floor for a bit more stability, or you might want to stay on a squishy mat for a bit more challenge. It's up to you. So let's start with our right leg as the standing leg to begin with. So shift your weight over into the right leg. At least one hand on your hip if you can. And on the left leg, bend your knee and just come up onto your tippy toes. And we're going to do an external rotation here. So think about this movement coming from your hip again. Just turn your knee out to the side. How far can you go without your hips wanting to come along? Just find where that is. And then bring your foot in towards your ankle. You can stay here with your toes on the ground, heel in towards your ankle, or you can bring your foot up on the inside of the standing leg. It can be down below your knee, it can be up above, doesn't matter. Nice. Take a breath here. If you've got one hand at the wall, you can bring the other hand into half of a prayer position, or you can bring both hands in, or you can bring one or both arms up. Whatever feels interesting today. Breathe easy here. You might notice all the little wobbles that come with balancing. That is fine. And piece by piece, let this go. Release your arms, release your legs, both feet to the ground. A little bit of a wiggle. Nice. Okay, let's do that on the other leg. So shift your weight into the other foot. Bend the opposite knee, toes to the ground. Find your external rotation. And now keep that as you bring your foot in somewhere to the inside of your standing leg. Doesn't matter where. Nice. Find your balance. Get familiar with the little wobblies here. And then pick a different arm position if you'd like. Once you've got all these pieces here, breathe. Can you breathe easily even as you balance? It can be helpful to pick a spot on the floor or the wall in front of you to focus on. Just pick something that's not moving. And let's let this go. Arms come down, leg comes back down. Have a bit of a wiggle. Yeah, if you're watching someone wobbling in front of you, then you might fall right down with them. That's kind of what happens in a yoga class when you've got a crowd. All right, so we're going to bring a little bit more of the dancing into our dancing tree now. So, what we're going to do is these same movements that we were playing with, but we're going to add a little tree pose in between each of those movements. So, we're going to start with our right leg as our standing leg. So, get yourself set up. And start just like we did before. Bend in the other knee, find your external rotation, bring your foot in, find your tree pose, take a breath here, and then bring this foot down, but instead of stepping it back to the usual position, step it over across. Find a place where both feet can be on the ground. Nice. Come back to your tree pose. Lovely. And then step this leg out to the side. And when you're ready, come back to your tree pose. And it's fine to touch down to the ground between these different transitions. If you want a little extra level of difficulty, you can try to go straight from these different standing positions back to your tree. See what works for you. Stepping forward and then stepping back. Take your time. You don't have to do it at the same pace that I'm going. Stepping across, stepping wide, stepping forward and back. Nice. We're playing with balance more than we are playing with trying to find a perfect tree pose in between all of these. So don't worry about having every little detail right. Okay, the next time you come back to your tree pose, let's pause here. Find your balance. We'll hold our tree for another breath. Maybe you want to add in a different arm position now that we're standing still. Okay, let it go. Arms come down, foot comes down, shake it out. And take a moment to just stand in stillness when you're ready. Just pause. Okay, let's do that all on the other side. So set yourself up however you need to be. If you want balance support, you can shift yourself around so you've got the other hand close to your support. Shift your weight over into the other foot, bend the opposite knee, find your tree pose. Take your time to find it. Lovely. And let's start with a little movement. So step your foot across in front, find your footing here, come back to your tree pose, step your foot wide, both feet to the ground. Come back to one foot on the ground for your tree pose. Step your foot forward, find the shape, both feet on the ground, and then come back, and then step that foot back. Nice. So you're just going nice and smoothly as best as you can from both feet on the ground back to one foot on the ground. You might find that one ankle is more happy to move than the other, one hip more happy to move than the other. That is fine. Just kind of move within the range that you've got available today. No gold stars for the biggest movements in the room. Okay, the next time you come back to your tree pose, let's pause here. Stay here for a breath or two, maybe choose a different arm position. Again, find a steady spot to focus your eyes on for a little bit of balance support. And let it go. Shake it out. Awesome. Okay, we're going to try some more standing poses. But before we do, let's try a little bit of a forward fold. So if you've got a block, you can have that nearby. It'd be nice to rest your hands on when we're in a forward fold. And I always like to give you a couple options for forward folds. Option one is to keep your spine fairly neutral so that you're not curling forward in your spine. And that's really nice if you do have any back issues going on today. If your back feels fine, option two is to first start out with the neutral spine and then curl down a little bit farther into that forward fold. So whatever suits you today is perfect. So standing nice and easy, take a breath. Bring your hands to your hips. Start by just hinging at your hips. How far can you go while keeping your spine fairly neutral? Try and keep your chest kind of lifted here. And then you can stay right here, maybe resting your hands on that block, or you can soften your knees and curl down a little bit more. Hands onto the block or hands onto the ground, whatever suits you. And tune into your breath once you're here in your forward fold. And as you inhale, come halfway up. Bring your head in line with your spine. And then come back to your forward fold. Maybe it's just your head hanging down. Maybe you're curling all the way down, whatever you'd like. And with your next inhale, slowly come on back up. Once you're up to standing, if you like, you can reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Just stretch out. Exhale, let it go. Nice. A little bit of a shake again. Okay. So now we're going to try out some warrior two plus other movements. So we're going to stand facing the long edge of our mat. And here's where, if you've got that block, you can have it up at the center of the long edge of your mat. I'm just going to set mine out of the way for now. So with a chair nearby or being close to the wall if you'd like, let's start off by coming into a wider stance and check if you're wearing socks. Check to see if your socks are kind of slippery on the mat. If they are, if you're comfortable to take them off, that could be helpful so that you're not going to slide anywhere. Okay, once you've got a nice wide stance, we're going to add some rotation. So I'll start with the right leg. Press down into your heel, lift your toes up away from the ground, and then at the hip joint, think about adding that external rotation. But this time, go so far that your toes point to the top edge of your mat, and then place your foot back down. And notice your hips probably want to come along with that movement, so let's even ourselves out a little bit. On the back leg, press into your heel, lift your toes, and just bring that leg into a little bit of internal rotation. Nice. So that it feels okay in your hips and your pelvis. And once you've got that shape, bend into your front knee. So you're aiming to have your knee kind of over top of your ankle. If you're going way past it, you might want to make your stance a little wider. It's up to you though. Awesome. Once you've got that shape in your legs, feel as if you could push your feet down into the ground and hug them towards each other at the same time. See if that wakes up the muscles of your legs, makes you feel a little more steady. Keep that nice strong foundation and reach your arms out parallel to the floor. Looking out over your right fingertips, take a breath here in warrior two. Now we'll add some movement. As you inhale, reach your arms up and straighten your front knee. And as you exhale, come back down to your warrior two. Let's go through these two different movements a few times. And you can keep going with the rhythm of your breath, or you can go at your own pace. Whatever you do, just try to keep breathing nice and smooth. If you find yourself holding your breath, maybe there's an adjustment you can make to feel a little bit more easeful. And the next time you come to your warrior two, let's pause here. And we're going to go from warrior two into an extended side angle. So bring your right forearm down to rest on the right thigh. Bring the other arm up towards the ceiling. And then if you like, you can reach it a little bit to the right. Nice. Take a breath here. Legs are still nice and strong, hugging towards each other. And then come all the way back up. Find your warrior two again. Our middle of these movements, kind of rest stop. Now let's go into a sun warrior. So bring the other hand down to the back leg. Reach the right arm up. Lengthen through your spine and find a little bit of a side bend here. Nice sun warrior pose. Breathe. And come back to center. Nice. And if you have a chair nearby, you can be doing this with your hand on the chair, and that is perfectly fine. So, whatever suits you, what we're going to do now is move through those three movements a few times. And again, we can move with our breath. As you exhale, you can come into your extended side angle. And as you inhale, you can come back up to center. And then with the exhale, go back into your sun warrior. And we'll go back and forth a few times. Choose to go with your breath or go at your own pace, whatever suits you, but can you keep your foundation strong the whole way through? And let's meet back in the middle. Nice. Bring your hands down to your hips, straighten your front leg. Press into your heels to bring your legs back to a more neutral position, so not in external or internal rotation. Awesome. And now let's do a forward fold in a wide leg position. So bring your hands to your hips if they're not already there. Hinge at your hips, start to fold forward. And same as before, you can stay at this halfway point with your spine fairly neutral. Your hands can come to your block if you like, or if your spine is happy to curl forward, you can go into that bigger forward fold. Hands on the block or on the ground. And we'll take a breath or so here. And you can stay right where you are, or you can add a bit of movement here, bending one knee and shifting your hips over in that same direction, and then going the other way. So back and forth a couple of times if you're trying out this movement. And then come on back to center if you've been moving with nice strong legs, feet pressing down, hugging towards each other. Start to make your way all the way back up to standing. Nice. All right, have a little bit of a wiggle. You can come back to standing normally if you'd like, or you can keep your legs in a wider stance. It's up to you. How's everyone doing? All right. Okay, let's do all of this on the other side. So come back to your wide leg stance if you haven't already. On the left leg this time, press down into your heel, lift your toes up, find your external rotation, pointing your toes all the way to the top edge of your mat. And then on the back leg, add a little bit of internal rotation just to even things out. Nice. Bend into your front knee. Notice if you're way out here, you can widen your stance a little bit to feel a bit more steady here. Awesome. Press your feet down into the ground, hug them towards each other. Add the arms here if you'd like. You're always welcome to have one hand on your chair or on the wall if you prefer. And breathe. And as you inhale, straighten your knee, bring your arms up. And as you exhale, float back down to your warrior two. Let's keep going a few times. And the next time you come back to warrior two, we'll pause here and then try our extended side angle. So bring your left forearm down to that front leg, reach the other arm up and over. You're always welcome to have one hand on your chair still if you like. And then let's meet back in warrior two. And then bring the other arm back to the back leg and reach up and over. Awesome. Come back to the center. Now let's go back and forth a few times. Maybe you're moving with your breath. Maybe you're picking your own pace. Whatever you'd like. Can you keep your legs strong as your upper body goes into these different shapes? Maybe one more of each movement. Let's meet back in warrior two when you're ready. Bring your hands down to your hips, straighten your front knee, bring your legs back to a more neutral position, and just bring them back into standing normally. Give everything a bit of a wiggle. Lovely. Okay, take a pause here. Just standing, feeling the stability of the ground beneath your feet. Okay, and we are ready to come down towards the ground. Okay, so we're going to do a tiny bit of movement before we go into our resting pose. But for the resting pose, if you like, we can do a restorative pose. So the one I had in mind today is a position where we'll be belly down towards the ground. But if that doesn't sound good, then you're welcome to come onto your back and just use the bolster if you have it, or pillow or blanket, whatever you've got under the back of your knees. But I'm going to show you really briefly what it looks like so you know if you want to give it a shot or not. So what we will do is have the bolster here on the center of the mat. And if you don't have a bolster, if you're practicing at home, it is just as nice to have some blankets and make a similar shape and just stack them on top of each other like this. And if your blankets are super squishy, something that's nice to use is big beach towels because they're a little bit more firm, like these blankets that I've got here. But if you do have the bolster or the blanket pile, do you like to have something here for a pillow? Because what we're going to do is lay down belly onto the bolster, forehead onto the blanket, and then the arms. I like to have my hands folded in the space between the bolster and the pillow, or you can have them out to the sides any way you like. And you can be positioned anyway. Like you can have your chest on the bolster, you can have your chest off the bolster. Does not matter, but that is general shape. It might look a little kooky, but it feels wonderful. It's one of those nice, really quieting kind of restorative poses. And unless you're a belly sleeper, a lot of us don't take that position very often, so it can be kind of nice to try. The other thing with restorative poses is you're welcome to try it for 1 or 2 minutes and then shift back into a position you prefer. So if you would like to do that, you can have your bolster or your pile of blankets near your mat. And we're going to come down to our back first, and then we're going to go into that pose. And since we're heading into the quiet down part of the class, if you want to add socks and sweaters back on, please feel free. And making your way onto your back when you're ready. No rush. Once you've made your way onto your back, just notice once again, how does the back of your body feel on the ground? What parts of your body are touching the ground? What parts are not? Bring your knees in towards your chest. Have another little hug and a rock from side to side. Come on back to center. Let's do our hip circles again. So bringing your hands onto your knees, bringing your big toes to touch. Do a few nice big circles. And when you do these, try to let your hands just come along for the ride so they're not moving your knees through the motion. Your legs are doing that. And come back to center. Let's do our twists one more time. So keep one knee in towards your chest, stretch the other leg long. Holding on to that knee with the opposite hand or the strap and your hand, if that feels better. And then bring your knee over into the twist. Take a breath or two here. And then come on back to the middle. Let's switch legs. And we'll do our twist over on this side. Find your twist. Hang out here for a few breaths. If you feel some stretch in your hip, you can imagine sending your breath into the stretch. And then come on back to center. Gather your knees in towards your chest again. And then let it go. So you can decide here if you're happy resting on your back, you can do that. If you want to try the position that I showed you before, you can come on up and get yourself set up. You're always welcome to do our resting position seated in the chair or seated with your back on the wall as well. Restorative positions are meant to be calming and relaxing, so do what actually works for you. And once you come into the position with the bolster, if you're giving that a go, make sure that the blanket or pillow you have for your head is actually supporting you. So if you need another layer, you can bring that in. So while you get set up, bring the lights down here in the room. Take a moment to notice how you feel here. Make any adjustments that would help you to feel a little bit more comfortable. And keep in mind if you've chosen one of the restorative positions that you're welcome to come out of that pose and come back into any position that would be more comfortable. And when you're ready, breathe nice and deeply. And just invite that sense of heaviness back to your body. Allow the weight of your body to be supported by the ground. You don't need to do any work to hold yourself up here. And take the next few minutes to do absolutely nothing, just resting.